Imagine this. You open your latest property tax bill, stare at the number that says your house is worth $1 million, and feel that warm glow of retirement security. Until you realize that number might as well be monopoly money because no one is willing to pay it. And every single day you cling to that fantasy is quietly draining thousands from your bank account, while an unseen tsunami of empty homes barrels toward the market. Smash the subscribe button right now and drop crash in the comments so I know you're paying attention. Because in the next 12 minutes, I'm going to prove why Canadian real estate isn't just cooling, it's quietly fracturing under a perfect storm no headline dares to print. And I'll hand you the exact playbook to either cash out before the floor collapses or position yourself to scoop up bargains when the panic finally erupts. The standoff playing out in driveways from Victoria to Halifax is brutal in its simplicity. On one side sit 6 million boomers cradling homes appraised at 7 figures, convinced that spring rate cuts will summon eager buyers with fat down payments. On the other side lurk younger families, scrolling listings, spotting the same detached houses lingering 90, 120 days, and whispering to each other, "Let it rot another season and we'll name our price." Guess which side is winning? Every sunrise that a for sale sign stays planted costs the owner cold, hard cash. Start with the obvious bleed of $800 in municipal taxes, layer on $200 for insurance, $150 for heat and hydro, even when the thermostat is turned to vacation mode. Toss in $100 averaged for snow removal, lawn cuts, and the odd leaky faucet repair, and you're staring at $1,250 evaporating every 30 days before a single showing request pings the inbox. Let that property stagnate a modest quarter, and you've torched $3,750 in pure holding expense. Reject the loan offer that finally creeps in because it's 50 grand shy of your dream number, and congratulations, you just vaporized $53,750 chasing a phantom bidder who boarded a plane back to 2021.
Had you swallowed pride 3 months earlier, shaved a conservative 30 grand off asking and shaken hands, you'd be 20,000 richer today, sipping coffee in a maintenance-free condo while the market continues its slow bleed behind you. That isn't hypothetical fear-mongering, it's the spreadsheet reality for thousands of sellers across the Greater Toronto area right now. And the engine that fueled the 15-year moonshot has coughed its last breath. Ultra-low interest rates and relentless population growth once acted as twin turbochargers. Borrowers locked 2% mortgages on properties that climbed 15% a year, newcomers streamed in with briefcases of saved capital, and every open house weekend felt like a lottery draw. Flip the calendar to today, and the Bank of Canada has tripled the policy rate, instantly shrinking the borrowing power of the exact cohort that once bid wars into frenzies. A household comfortably swinging a $1.2 million purchase at 2% now tops out around $800 grand at 5.5, and the fresh arrivals everyone assumed would refill the buyer pool are landing with suitcases, not six-figure down payments, renting shoebox apartments while they navigate language barriers and credential fights. Layer on shifting taste. The sprawling 4-bedroom colonials with finished basements and double-wide garages built for minivans and hockey bags are suddenly yesterday's news when the scarce buyers who still qualify crave lock-and-leave towns stacked beside LRT stops or glass-walled condos 15 minutes from the office tower. Picture a dealership lot packed with gas-guzzling pickups the same week the government slaps a carbon tax that makes electric hatchbacks the only rational choice. Inventory swells, discounts deepen, and the assets everyone swore were bulletproof start to rust in plain sight. Now, zoom out to the demographic cliff that turns a soft landing into a structural crater.
Canada's 6 million baby boomers are graying at warp speed, and census projections show the over 75 cohort ballooning by 50% inside a decade. Late 70s and 80s rarely coexist with 3-story staircases and half-acre lawns. Downsizing, retirement residences, or estate sales become inevitable, and what starts as a polite trickle of inherited properties, maybe 30,000 units annually, morphs into a Category 5 deluge by the back half of the 20s. Oxford Economics crunched the math and delivered a gut punch. Come 2035, the country will sit on 500,000 more dwellings than households to fill them.
500,000 keys jingling in realtor lockboxes while municipalities beg for warm bodies. The millennial cavalry everyone assumes will ride to the rescue is saddled with six-figure student loans, daycare bills that rival mortgages, and wages that barely outran inflation over the last decade. Even the windfall of parental equity won't materialize when the inherited bungalow can't fetch enough to cover the outstanding line of credit, let alone fund the condo deposit downtown. This isn't a cyclical dip you ride out with a HELOC and optimism. It's a generational mismatch where supply and demand have divorced and the kids aren't coming home for Sunday dinner. Before despair locks the front door, though, recognize the narrow window still cracked open. Prices have already retreated 10 to 15% off peak depending on postal code. Listings linger like unwanted house guests, yet closings still cross the finish line every week because a subset of sellers have accepted reality and price to move. Treat the next 12 months as your personal fire drill. Ignore the ghost of 2021 comps, dismiss the bank's rosy appraisal, forget whatever algorithm Zillow spit out after dinner, and instead mine the closed transactions from the past 60 days. Note the final sale price versus original ask, tally the median days on market, then plant your flag 5% beneath the lowest cleared comparable because the alternative is watching that gap widen to 10, then 20 as fresh inventory piles up.
Perfection is the enemy of profit. The objective isn't to extract every possible nickel, it's to exit with capital intact and sanity preserved. Snatch the first offer within 8% of your realistic target, wire the proceeds to a high-interest savings account currently paying 4.5, and let compound interest manufacture 35 to 40 grand annually while someone else wrestles the furnace replacement. I watched a couple in Oakville learn this the expensive way. Listed at 1.3 in the first blush of spring, 0 bites, chopped to 1.2 by midsummer. Finally, a bidder surfaced at 1.1 and pride sent them back to the waiting game. Autumn arrived with a revised bid of 1.05. They capitulated, and 5 months of stubborn hope plus 8 grand in utilities and taxes left them 63,000 lighter than the June offer they'd spurned. Contrast that with neighbors 2 doors down who swallowed a 5% haircut on day 45, closed in August, and today toast their foresight from a Florida balcony while the holdouts shovel snow and refresh listing views that flatline at 200. If selling isn't on your radar, if you're renting, eyeing the sidelines, or guarding a paid-off principal residence, then your superpower is patience. Every additional month you avoid ownership is a month someone else absorbs depreciation, maintenance surprises, and the sleepless nights of negative equity. Yes, rent feels like lighting money on fire, but compare that controlled burn to purchasing a $900,000 semi today, only to watch it bleed to $750 while your 5-year fixed renews at 6% and the bank demands a chat about income verification. Cash hoarded in a checking account, or GIC, is ammunition. Deploy it when the feeding frenzy flips and desperate sellers dangle incentives just to stop the hemorrhage. And for the boomers banking on home equity as the golden parachute, run the stress test. $15,000 annually in carrying costs while values drift 2% lower each quarter erases a decade of gains before you even list. So treating the property as a piggy bank you can crack open at leisure is a bet that spring miracles arrive on schedule. Hope is not an asset allocation. The plot thickens when you overlay the mortgage renewal cliff barreling down the tracks. $600 billion in paper locked at 2% between 2020 and 2022 hits the wall starting next quarter.
Resetting at 5.5 or north for families whose salaries never kept pace and whose homes appraised below the outstanding balance. A $500,000 mortgage jumps from $2 grand to $3,200 monthly. 14 large annually that simply doesn't exist in the budget, so qualification fails, panic listings flood MLS, and the gentle grind of today accelerates into free fall tomorrow. Forced sales don't haggle. They slash to spark bidding wars among vultures, and the polite 2% quarterly erosion morphs into 5, 7, 10% monthly haircuts once the herd stampedes. Housing markets never detonate in a single headline. They erode like shoreline cliffs, grain by grain, until one storm carves away the foundation and the whole structure slides into the sea. That tipping point is likely 6 to 9 months out in overheated pockets, maybe 18 in resilient prairie enclaves. But the early movers who list aggressively today will be sipping margaritas when the latecomers discover their million-dollar asset won't cover the moving truck. So here's the distilled battle plan, spoken plain. Sellers, photograph the rooms, hire the stager, set the price 5% under the freshest closed comp, accept the first offer within 8%, close in 30 days, park the proceeds at 4.5, and sleep like a baby. Buyers and renters extend the lease another 12 months, stack every dollar, monitor inventory spikes and price reductions weekly, then pounce when the median discount crosses 15% because that's when the math flips from gambling to grocery shopping. The Canadian real estate reset isn't a maybe. It's unfolding frame by frame, and the families who treat emotion like a luxury they can't afford will preserve capital, while the ones who cling to yesterday's Zolo estimate will subsidize everyone else's bargain. You still possess the most precious commodity in a downturn, time, just enough to choose which side of the transaction you want to occupy when the music stops. Hit that bell icon so you never miss an update, because I'll be tracking every renewal wave, every inventory surge, every policy tweak that either cushions the landing or pours gasoline on the slide. And if you found this roadmap useful, share it with the group chat that's been arguing about waiting for the bottom since Trudeau's first mandate. The Great Wealth Transfer isn't a gift, it's a negotiation. And the ones who negotiate first walk away whole.